Fala, galera! Estamos ao vivo, estamos ao vivo, estamos ao vivo, estamos ao vivo! Meu ex-professor, o Celso Zelt, parece que foi naquele podcast lá do Edson, não sei das quantas, show, Edson Castro. Esse cara é fazer aquele manual do homem moderno, né? Se eu não me engano. Fala, galera, desculpa aí ter demorado. Eu ia fazer essa live mais cedo, mas não deu tempo. Vamos lá, queridos e queridas. Deixa eu pegar aqui só... E aí, gente, como é que vocês estão? Celso Zelt. Ele falou das histórias das Copas, né? Interessante isso aqui. Já que a gente não pode mostrar jogo, né? Te mostra aí um pouquinho do que foi a história das Copas.
Parecida do que a camisa da seleção brasileira. Olá, eu sou Celso Zelt.
Levantar todos os números que você levantou aqui pro seu livro, a gente percebe que o Brasil ele participou de todas as Copas no mundo.
Justo.
Ele lidera o ranking da FIFA das Copas com número de jogos, com vitórias, saldo de gols. Então a gente tem... Hoje o Brasil, olhando pro histórico geral, ele é o maior time, a maior seleção para as Copas no mundo.
Sem dúvida.
Mesmo até hoje, né?
Sem dúvida.
E aí, mas eu quero saber da sua opinião, depois desse levantamento que você fez, qual que é o tamanho do Brasil para a instituição Copa do Mundo?
Ah, é grandão, né? Isso é grandão. O Brasil é sinônimo de Copa do Mundo. A gente fica abalado aqui quando o Brasil cai fora mais cedo, porque somos brasileiros. Mas o próprio evento sente muito mais, né? A FIFA sente muito mais. O Brasil é um dos esteios da Copa do Mundo. A Itália também é um esteio da Copa do Mundo e ficou de fora, e você vê a comoção, né? Pela terceira vez. Mas o Brasil, ele tem um caso de amor especial com a Copa do Mundo, e a Copa do Mundo tem com o Brasil. O Brasil está para seleções como clubes como o Real Madrid ou o Manchester United, são clubes internacionais. Eu vi uma final de Champions em 2017, o que tinha menos lá era torcedor espanhol do Real Madrid. Tinha mexicano, tinha australiano, tinha indiano. Eu acho que se a gente transpuser essa realidade para as seleções, o Brasil é a grande seleção internacional. Não só brasileiros torcem e acompanham o Brasil. O Haiti, que será nosso adversário nessa Copa, tem um caso de amor com a seleção brasileira. O México, quando o Brasil foi campeão em 70, a torcida do México torceu para o Brasil. Então, povos, principalmente do chamado, em algum momento aí da humanidade, terceiro mundo, né? Os povos menos favorecidos, também encontram no futebol da seleção brasileira uma vingança para todo o resto que a vida não nos deu, não é verdade? Nós, que não somos do eixo Europa e Estados Unidos, tem uma identificação muito grande nisso. Então eu sempre senti, mas depois desse trabalho concluído, esse peso que você está falando, né? O Brasil, o futebol para o Brasil, principalmente o futebol em Copas do Mundo, tem um peso de traço cultural. Do Eduardo Galeano, ele parafraseava uma frase que eu não vou...
Porra, Galeano citado falando de Copa do Mundo. Esse é o Celso que eu conheci.
Lembrar de quem é, mas eu fiquei sabendo pelo grande escritor uruguaio Eduardo Galeano. Ele dizia que todo país tem sua história, o Uruguai tem seu futebol. E eu acho que isso, guardadas as proporções, até porque o Brasil é muito maior que o Uruguai em território e população, eu acho que essa é uma verdade que também vale para o Brasil, né? Todo país tem sua história, o Brasil tem principalmente o seu futebol.
E se a gente tivesse que falar, a gente falou aqui que o Brasil é sinônimo de Copa, né? Achei uma aspas muito bonita, mas quem você acha que são os elementos, não vamos falar jogadores, que eu acho que tem coisas muito maiores que apenas jogadores na seleção, quais são os personagens que você acha que são sinônimos de Brasil em Copa do Mundo?
Antes de tudo, o Pelé. O Zagallo também, gostem ou não, como ele mesmo dizia, vão ter que me engolir. E tem que engolir o Zagallo, porque o Zagallo é bicampeão como jogador, campeão como técnico, tetra como coordenador, e entre as coisas inéditas que a gente descobriu nesse livro, descobrimos que o Zagallo é também o jogador que deu mais assistências para gols em Copas do Mundo. Porque você sabe, né, a assistência em gol é um conceito relativamente recente no futebol. Ninguém falava disso há 30 anos. É um conceito importado dos esportes americanos, né? Os americanos gostam disso, vem especificamente do basquete. Então aí me ocorreu, a mim e ao Gustavo, que é o coautor, né, fundamental o Gustavo nesse trabalho, porque o Gustavo, além de ser tão maluco pro futebol quanto nós, ele é engenheiro. Então ele entende de planilha, de essas coisas que a inteligência artificial está se aproximando muito. Isso facilitou muito a nossa vida. É claro que a gente tinha que levantar todas as assistências de todos os jogadores do Brasil em todos os jogos de Copa. Mas na hora que jogava isso na planilhinha mágica do Gustavo, eu já cuspia lá que o primeiro em assistência era o Zagallo. Então o Zagallo é um desses personagens, né?
Tetracampeão,
que
né?
a gente fala tetracampeão, é muito forte, muito pesado. Eu acho que para gerações mais recentes, e talvez nem tão recentes, porque lá se vão 24 anos, você tem um Ronaldo Fenômeno, você tem um Romário, que já faz 32 anos, você tem o Garrincha, hoje tão esquecido, Mané Garrincha. Eu faço até um apelo para as novas gerações, procurem Garrincha no YouTube. Bota ali Garrincha. Eu lembro o meu filho Daniel, que também adora futebol. Era pequeno, eu mostrava para ele lances do Garrincha, aqueles lances do Garrincha indo, voltando e passando pelo cara. E o Daniel falava para mim, mas pai, isso é truque de câmera. Eu falava, não é, filho, o cara fazia isso em campo. Era um outro mundo, um outro tempo, uma outra condição física. O mundo podia ser surpreendido por um Garrincha em Copa do Mundo. Hoje ninguém vai ser surpreendido por ninguém em 2026. Todo mundo sabe onde todo mundo joga, né? O álbum de figurinhas está aí para mostrar. Mas no seu tempo, o Garrincha foi um desses gênios.
E tivemos uma Copa aí que foi graças ao Garrincha.
Sim, 62. Ele fez gol de tudo que era jeito. Fez gol de cabeça, fez gol de falta, fez gol de jeito que não era o jeito que ele jogava, né? Quando o Pelé se machucou, ele chamou para si aquela condição do cara principal do time. Então, entre tantos outros, como você falou, a gente sempre vai deixar gente de fora, mas esses são 4, assim, que me vêm à cabeça, até para contemplar todas as gerações de títulos mundiais do Brasil, né?
Uma parada que eu tava conversando esses dias falando sobre Copa do Mundo é como a gente tem uma... Você até falou um pouco do exercício da memória, né? A gente sempre vai falar de Copa, a gente lembra muito de 70, Pelé, Garrincha, a gente vai falar de 94, obviamente, 2002 tal. A gente lembra até mesmo de 82, né?
Eu lembro muito.
Brasil que não ganhou, né? Eu lembro meus tios.
Eu tô quase chorando de falar. Eu escrevi um livro só sobre 82, chamado 82, Uma Copa para Sempre. Que é um registro de tudo que rolava na época. A música do Voa Canarinho Voa, o comercial na televisão do shampoo.
Durante muito tempo foi considerado um dos melhores jogos de Copa do Mundo, né? Brasil e Itália, tem até um documentário oficial da FIFA.
Cara, esse jogo, ele me arrepia. Esse é o jogo que eu mais vi na vida.
Jogaço.
Mais uma vez, estava com meu filho Daniel aqui sentado no meu joelho, e eu voltava o DVD, e ele me falou uma coisa que me assustou. Ele falou, pai, você não acha, vendo esse jogo, você não tem a sensação de que a gente pode mudar o final dele no fim do DVD? Aí eu falei, filho, eu acho isso, mas eu era um garoto de 14 anos quando vi isso pela primeira vez, achava que era por isso. Agora você nasceu 22 anos depois disso e tá me falando a mesma coisa? Então aquele jogo tem uma aura mágica, né?
Então, e a gente tem esse vínculo, né, com essa principalmente acho que é a era televisão colorida da Copa, né? Mas eu sinto que a gente fala muito pouco da primeira conquista da Copa do Mundo, né? 58, pouquíssimo falado. Verdade. E até mesmo 62, a não ser as anedotas de Garrincha, que são excelentes também, né? E da lesão do Pelé, elas são poucos faladas.
Ótimo podcast.
Você acha que essas duas Copas, elas não têm essa aura tão grande assim?
Vai ficando longe, né, Edson? Eu, por exemplo, convivi com pessoas, o meu avô era nascido no século retrasado, né? O meu pai tem 96 anos. Então a convivência com essas pessoas e também o interesse muito específico, né? A gente acabava pegando um cabedal maior, e eu reconheço, e comparativamente você tem razão, nos últimos tempos tem se falado menos dessas Copas. Tem a distância, né? Era rádio, poucos filmes, poucas imagens, as histórias que se repetem geralmente são as anedotas que você falou. Acho que tem uma diferença fundamental entre 58 e 62. 58 foi a primeira, foi uma coisa no Brasil, né? Parou o Brasil. 62, tecnicamente, a seleção já estava envelhecida, não foi uma Copa tão legal, a Copa do Chile. Ela vem meio sempre a reboque, né? Você sempre fala ou da Copa de 58, ou dos bicampeões de 58 e também 62, né? Essa é a impressão que a gente tem. E vai ficando mais longe mesmo. Eu trabalhando com essa questão de história do futebol, que eu gosto muito, eu sempre faço questão de reavivar, porque são chances para as pessoas entenderem situações, entenderem um contexto.
Porque é exatamente esse o ponto que eu queria chegar, né? Uma crítica que eu faço, principalmente em relação ao futebol, a gente é muito resultadista,
sim,
clássico, e parece que todo time foi inventado ontem, né?
Até fazer uma autocrítica aqui, eu ainda acho que a seleção brasileira hoje é bem ruim, mas o Rafael Silva escreveu um texto, a gente tem uma editoria agora de esportes dentro do Drops, né? O Rafael Silva escreveu um texto sobre a primeira partida da seleção brasileira nessa Copa do Mundo e ele me fez ver razão no que ele falou ali do time, que apesar do empate com o Marrocos, foi interessante o resultado. Foi interessante o resultado com uma seleção que estava sem o Neymar no campo, né? Interessante isso.
Imediatista.
Né? O Flamengo parece que ele só virou um time de verdade depois de 19. E aí o Flamengo de 2009 é o melhor Flamengo, o melhor time que já existiu na face da Terra. O Corinthians é o Corinthians de 2012, o Palmeiras é o Palmeiras de 2000. E sabe, então a gente tem sempre essa coisa de apagar a história do futebol. Como é que um país que é tão apaixonado por futebol, ele é tão desapegado de sua história, Celso?
É muito louco isso, né, Edson? Primeiro que eu acho que as pessoas gostam de futebol, não gostam de ler tanto quanto gostam de futebol, não gostam de estudar tanto quanto gostam de futebol, não gostam, e cada vez as pessoas gostam menos de sentar e de despender um tempo, né? Tá aí o sucesso dos cortes, dos shorts, tá tudo cada vez mais resumido. Então, acho que esse é um ponto. Você quer me deixar louco? Você falou dessa história e tem razão, né? Você quer me deixar louco é pedir para eu escalar um time de todos os tempos, aí eu vou escalar alguém de 1950 e a pessoa fala, esse ninguém viu. Eu falei, então por que você me pediu de todos os tempos? Porque você não me pede dos últimos tempos. Se você me pedir dos últimos tempos, eu vou te dar dos últimos tempos. Você me pediu de todos os tempos, certo? E há também quem não goste de fazer esse tipo de coisa, porque diz, mas eu não vi jogar. Ué, mas eu não estava lá 2000 anos atrás, sei o que aconteceu com Jesus Cristo ou com Napoleão Bonaparte, né? Hoje está cada vez mais fácil, porque a inteligência artificial resolve tua vida, ou qualquer busca, qualquer mecanismo de busca na internet resolve tua vida. Até em relação a imagens, estão aparecendo inclusive coisas que a gente não sabia. Outro dia não, já faz um tempinho, apareceram umas imagens coloridas do Brasil na final da Copa de 58.
Eu vi isso.
Sim. Que é uma mulher lá que descobriu na gaveta do pai sueco que levou lá a maquininha no dia, levou uma filmadora. Então, a tecnologia também está favorecendo isso, né? Eu acho que é uma questão das pessoas terem uma boa vontade de correrem atrás. Eu também fico doido da vida. Imagina, chegaram a cogitar se o Gabigol era maior que o Zico no Flamengo. Com isso, né? Essa é a última das grandes bobagens aí. Ou então, sabe outra coisa que me deixa doido? Fala assim, escale o melhor time de todos os tempos, de qualquer clube, né? Goleiro, lateral esquerdo. Aí o cara te manda lá nas mensagens, nas interações. Mas faltaram os seguintes jogadores, 2 pontos. Aí ele põe 12. Poxa, se é um time, eu só posso escalar 11. Como é que ele quer que eu enfie mais 12? Fora que a grande questão não é colocar quem ficou de fora, é quem que eu tiro para colocar aquele. Então, é uma questão de hierarquia, de padrão, de época. Você quer fazer o recorte? Então faz o recorte. Fala dos últimos 30 anos, dos últimos 20, dos últimos 10. Mas não fica putinho da vida. Né? Quando você me pede de todos os tempos, aí eu uso todos os tempos e sou criticado por isso.
Não vale, né?
Então é essa coisa imediatista que você falou, né?
E acho que assim, acho que tem uma importância muito grande. Acho que o Museu do Futebol, inclusive assim, se você nunca foi ao Museu do Futebol e você gosta de futebol, cara, você não gosta de futebol, né?
É muito legal.
Porque talvez seja um dos lugares mais legais, assim, pra quem é fã
sem dúvida
de futebol, de visitar aqui em São Paulo. E o Museu de Futebol cumpre esse papel muito bem feito. Sim. E até mesmo publicações em livros, né? Eu acho que eles têm muito essa importância da gente manter viva certas histórias que, se conversar hoje com a galera, tem galera que não sabe, e até mesmo no meio de fake news, notícia, você vai falar às vezes da origem do Palmeiras.
Sim.
A galera não sabe de onde veio o Palmeiras.
Exato.
Então, a galera não sabe de onde veio o Corinthians, a galera não sabe... A gente tava conversando agora sobre o Clube Atlético do Ipiranga, né? A gente tava falando
o vovô da colina histórica.
E dessa origem que a gente tem dos operários com futebol. Então, essas publicações, os museus, eles são muito importantes para a história dos times, né?
Eu costumo dizer, Edson, que o futebol, até pela força que ele tem no Brasil, o esporte em geral, mas o futebol em específico, ele é um meio, ele não é um fim. Ele é um meio para você descobrir tanta coisa legal, né?
Sim.
Quanta gente não começou pelas páginas de esportes, as suas leituras. Eu mesmo, uma das coisas que eu mais me orgulho de ter feito, que é o almanaque do meu time, o almanaque do Corinthians, fiz também o almanaque do Palmeiras, com meu amigo Mário Sérgio Venditti, que é o palmeirense da história, mas o almanaque do Timão é um resgate de todas as fichas técnicas da história do Corinthians e de todas as biografias de
Puta, que trabalho insuportável, cara. E o Celso ele era bom nisso. O Celso foi meu professor de jornalismo, tá, gente? Um dos, lá na Casper Libero.
jogadores e técnicos, com data de nascimento, morte. É um trabalho que eu continuo fazendo até hoje. E muitas vezes nos estádios, eu já fui abordado por gente, por marmanjos, né? O primeiro almanaque do Timão saiu em 2000.
Caraca.
Aí os marmanjos ali quando eu estava no Pacaembu, né? Interrompiam a minha passagem lá, falavam, o primeiro livro da minha vida foi o senhor que escreveu o almanaque do Timão, foi meu avô falecido que me deu. Hoje eu sou um advogado, hoje eu sou um médico, hoje eu sou um engenheiro. Tinha até gente que exagerava, o meu filho era pequeno. E eles falavam assim, você sabe o que o seu pai fez? Você sabe o que o seu pai fez? E o menino assustava, achava que eu tinha matado ou roubado. Mas isso é muito importante, porque são portas de entrada. O futebol é um meio, não é um fim. Esse mesmo meu filho, uma vez ele ganhou um prêmio de astronomia na escola. Eu falei, filho, você entende de astronomia? Ele falou, pai, foi fácil, caiu o escudo do Cruzeiro, que é o escudo do Cruzeiro de Belo Horizonte, que é o Cruzeiro do Sul. Então veja quanta relação legal a gente faz, né? Tem toda uma geração que se tornou jornalista, a minha geração é do Mauro Betting, do PVC. Nós éramos Placar Futebol Clube, né? Trabalhamos na revista Placar.
Excelente publicação.
E na época era o que você tinha, né? Era o que você tinha. Aquela foto lá do jogo do campeonato italiano, aquela única que saía na semana, era o que você tinha. Não tinha transmissão direta, não tinha internet, não tinha... Eu costumo dizer que o nosso mundo era muito reduzido. Essa questão, uma outra questão que o torcedor de futebol fala, é um paulistinha, campeonato estadual. Um paulistinha, o nosso mundo era São Paulo. Nós éramos campeões do mundo quando ganhávamos o estadual. Não, São Paulo, do Rio... Minas, no Rio Grande do Sul.
Não, Paulista nos anos 90, 80
era uma outra situação, né? Então a gente tem que tomar cuidado para não ser anacrônico. Anacronismo é você usar valores do passado no presente, ou do presente no passado, é você querer encaixar conceitos da sua época em outra época, ou da outra época da sua época. Também é uma via de mão dupla, né?
Uma coisa que eu sinto falta, que acho que a gente perdeu muito, assim, e até mesmo no jornalismo em geral, né? Nós perdemos muito a crônica.
Não há espaço para crônica.
E a crônica para mim, eu fui fazer jornalismo, né? Me formei jornalista por causa da crônica.
Você vê?
A crônica era minha paixão, assim. Eu lembro de abrir jornal para ler.
Crônica, jornalismo opinativo, são coisas que fazem falta mesmo.
Crônica, pegar compilados de crônicas de autores, de escritores famosos, de ir atrás das crônicas esportivas de Nelson Rodrigues.
Opa.
Pô, eu adorava o poder da crônica. Então parece que hoje a gente é tão analítico que a gente perde o romance na história de um jogo.
É verdade. Na verdade, eu acho que tem duas coisas do jornalismo esportivo que os jornalistas esportivos ainda querem fazer, mas não há veículos esportivos que acolham. Primeira crônica que você está falando. Segundo, jornalismo investigativo. Porque está tudo muito na base da diversão. Então, pode ver, jornalismo investigativo está tendo espaço em lugares que não são esportivos, né? O escândalo da arbitragem lá do André Rizek em 2005 saiu na Veja, não saiu num veículo de esporte. E a crônica é a mesma coisa. Ainda, claro que os jornalistas gostariam de fazer crônica, mas você vai publicar onde? Quem é que está dando espaço para crônica? Tá? A não ser espaços muito, muito especiais, inclusive no digital. O digital ainda tem gente batalhando.
Acho que a rede social às vezes abraça um pouquinho.
As redes sociais. Mas é um espaço muito menor do que a crônica mereceria, né?
Já foi, né? E era bom, né? Você ler assim.
Você sabe que uma vez eu fui num jogo à tarde na chuva, Corinthians e Confiança de Sergipe, numa terça-feira, Copa do Brasil no Pacaembu, quase ninguém vendo o jogo. Estávamos eu e o PVC, trabalhávamos na Placar. E aí estava chovendo e a torcida pegava muito no pé, a torcida do Corinthians, pegava muito no pé do Mauro, ponta esquerda, que hoje trabalha no clube, né, o Mauro da Silva. E o Mauro sofreu uma falta e ele estava muito nervoso, porque a torcida estava pegando no pé dele. E ele tentou ajeitar a bola molhada para cobrar a falta. E a bola escorregou da mão dele. E a primeira vez que a bola escorregou, o estádio não estava muito cheio, mas o pessoal, Mauro, nem com a mão. E aí ele foi ficando nervoso. E ele tentou mais uma e mais outra, ele não conseguia. E eu olhei aquela cena e eu pensei em fazer uma crônica, né? Sobre isso que eu estou te contando. Mas cadê espaço? Trabalhava numa revista mensal, temática, naquela época, estava naquele jogo simplesmente para fazer a ficha técnica daquela partida. Então faltou espaço. Esse, por exemplo, é um exemplo de crônica natimorta que ficou na minha cabeça. Deve ter milhares de casos desse aí, milhares de jornalistas muito mais competentes do que eu para fazer.
E agora, voltando um pouco da história do Brasil nas Copas, eu quero falar um pouquinho sobre o princípio da época mesmo, né? O Brasil participou de todas as edições da Copa do Mundo.
Sim.
Eu queria saber de você, assim, como historiador, pesquisador de futebol que você é, como é que era as primeiras edições da Copa do Mundo, assim, pré-guerra?
Era muito... primeiro que isso era uma loucura do Jules Rimet, né? Você imagina o mundo, a dificuldade de transporte, o futebol sendo um esporte amador, não profissional. O que era a ideia de uma Copa do Mundo?
Vou voltar um pouquinho essa parte que é bem legal.
Escorregou, o estádio não estava muito cheio, mas o pessoal, Mauro, nem com a mão. E aí ele foi ficando nervoso. E ele tentou mais uma e mais outra, ele não conseguia. E eu olhei aquela cena e eu pensei em fazer uma crônica, né? Sobre isso que eu estou te contando. Mas cadê espaço? Trabalhava numa revista mensal, temática, naquela época, estava naquele jogo simplesmente para fazer a ficha técnica daquela partida. Então faltou espaço. Esse, por exemplo, é um exemplo de crônica natimorta que ficou na minha cabeça. Deve ter milhares de casos desse aí, milhares de jornalistas muito mais competentes do que eu para fazer.
E agora, voltando um pouco da história do Brasil nas Copas, eu quero falar um pouquinho sobre o princípio da época mesmo, né? O Brasil participou de todas as edições da Copa do Mundo.
Sim.
Eu queria saber de você, assim, como historiador, pesquisador de futebol que você é, como é que era as primeiras edições da Copa do Mundo, assim, pré-guerra?
Era muito... primeiro que isso era uma loucura do Jules Rimet, né? Você imagina o mundo, a dificuldade de transporte, o futebol sendo um esporte amador, não profissional. O que era a ideia de uma Copa do Mundo? A primeira ainda foi realizada no Uruguai, que para os europeus era o fim do mundo.
E muitos nem queriam vir, né?
É por isso que nós tivemos muito poucos europeus, todos por questões políticas, né? A França, que era o país do Rimet, a Romênia, que o rei da Romênia adorava futebol, questões muito particulares. Mas a primeira Copa foi aquela que teve a Bolívia, que teve 13... duas Copas tiveram 13 seleções. Justo as duas primeiras na América do Sul. Uruguai 30 e Brasil 50. Não completou nem os 16.
Caraca.
Né? Em 50 menos o mundo já estava diferente. Mas em 30 você tinha que vir de navio. Então você perdia semanas na ida, semanas na volta. Tinha o período de disputa da competição. Os jogadores eram amadores, né? Então eles tinham que se licenciar dos seus empregos. Então tudo isso dificultava. Imagina, não tinha televisão, né? A primeira transmissão num jogo de rádio de Copa do Mundo para o Brasil só em 38. Tinha os problemas internos. A Copa de 30, os paulistas queriam participação de representatividade na comissão técnica, os cariocas não deixaram. E, em represália, os paulistas não cederam jogadores. Nós somos representados por uma seleção carioca. Se pegar os jornais de São Paulo, todos torcendo contra o Brasil na Copa de 30, dizendo que era uma seleção de cariocas.
Não é novidade, né? Torcer contra a seleção.
Então,
né?
Em 34 a briga já era outra, amadoristas e profissionalistas. tinha a CBF, tinha a Federação Brasileira de Futebol. Então foi uma seleção que era praticamente formada por jogadores do Botafogo e por jogadores da CBD.
Interessante isso.
Embora no nosso livro a gente dá um ranking de clubes que mais cederam jogadores na história das Copas, aí para o nosso livro estamos considerando os clubes onde eles jogavam na época. Mas há controvérsias. Oficialmente eles eram jogadores filiados à CBD. Não aos clubes que eram contra a CBD.
CBF.
Cara, que doideira.
Né? Então essa foi a bagunça das 2 primeiras Copas, principalmente. 3, vamos botar 38, o Brasil menos bagunçado, fez uma seleção de fato, chegou, foi a primeira participação legal do Brasil. O Brasil é 3º colocado, o Leônidas da Silva é o artilheiro, né? O Leônidas é uma espécie de precursor de tudo que a gente viu depois.
O Pantera Negra, né?
É o Diamante Negro. Diamante Negro.
É ele que deu o nome ao chocolate?
Sim, inclusive é a primeira participação comercial de um jogador de futebol.
Cara, que loucura.
E tinha também os cigarros Leônidas.
É mesmo?
Em 1930, com ele desenhadinho. Você sabe que o desenho do Leônidas da Silva dando a famosa bicicleta, que não foi ele que inventou, mas foi ele que popularizou, o desenho do Leônidas dando a bicicleta acompanhava o chocolate Diamante Negro até a minha infância. Eu lembro desse desenho nos anos 70. Eu tenho 58 anos,
e
né?
O chocolate tá até hoje aí.
O chocolate está firme até hoje. Tiraram o desenhinho dele dando a bicicleta.
Uma
mas nos anos 70 ainda tinha, eu lembro disso.
Que legal. E como é que era... Uma coisa que eu gosto de ver também, pra mim, sempre que me chama a atenção, é como é que era o equipamento dos jogadores, né? Porque era uma chuteira pesada, né? Que
Tudo pesado. Não era chuteira, era chanca. Eles chamavam de chanca. Tinha prego. Prego embaixo mesmo, para firmeza, muito rústico, né? Os calções enormes, as meias eram de lã.
Caraca.
Meias de lã. Aliás, o Brasil, aí outra coisa que a gente fala no livro, são as variações de combinação de uniforme do Brasil. Aí tem o número de jogos, empates, vitórias e derrotas em Copas que o Brasil fez com meias pretas.
Cara.
As meias de 30, 34 e 38 eram pretas.
Nunca mais, né? Porque nunca mais vi
Nunca mais,
preta,
nunca
né?
mais. Essa parte que tem os desenhinhos aí dos jogadores.
Essa combinação eu nunca...
Olha, camisa branca, calção azul e meias pretas.
Que doideira.
Ou camisa azul, calção branco e meias pretas, meias de lã mesmo, né?
Vamos falar a verdade aí que a combinação certa é camisa azul e calção branco, né?
Sim.
É a bonita, tá? Aí o meião, qual que é o certo pra você, Celso?
O branco.
O branco.
O branco.
Então, tamo junto. O todo de azul assim me pega.
Você sabe qual que eu não gosto?
Qual?
A combinação ovo frito.
Qual que
Camisa amarela e calção branco.
Não, horrível.
Aí não dá a impressão que o cara tá sem calção.
Não, é horrível. Não,
Pelado.
Não é? E tem aí a estatística dessa.
Não, isso é muito curioso, cara. Isso realmente é muito legal.
E você sabe uma coisa legal para a feitura do livro? Isso ajudou, né? Porque você, hoje em dia, fazer um livro desse é muito difícil por causa de direitos autorais.
Sim.
Você não pode botar escudo.
Que loucura!
Você não pode botar a foto do jogador.
Cara, que loucura.
Né?
Cara, que absurdo! Privatizaram tudo no futebol, bicho. Que merda. Ah, que legal o negocinho do YouTube tá com uma bola de futebol aqui embaixo.
Então a gente teve que fazer da medida honesta e que passasse a informação. Eu acho que conseguimos.
Você que fez o almanac, a gente vê aqui que tem um monte de detalhezinho, assistência, como foi feito o gol e tal. Hoje, a gente tem ferramentas muito modernas, né? De acompanham status, como assistência, gol, toque, desarme. A gente tem estatísticas muito completas de um jogo de futebol.
É isso, gente. Gostei muito dessa entrevista. Depois eu vou ver se eu pego mais um pouco dela. Não, eu vou mostrar mais um pouquinho. Depois eu interrompo o corte.
Como é que é o trabalho para compilar isso quando a gente tá falando de outras Copas e outros momentos onde não existia esse nível de dados?
Pesado, viu, Edson? É mesmo essa história de assistências, coisas que nunca ninguém tinha levantado. Eu quase desisti, porque tem umas imagens muito ruins, poucas, das Copas de 30 a 38, 50 até me deu menos trabalho, porque a Copa foi aqui, a gente tem algumas imagens, mas de 30 a 38, vou te dar um exemplo. O primeiro gol do Brasil nas Copas, preguinho, contra na derrota
de quiz, hein?
contra a
Iugoslávia. Gol do
Iugoslávia.
Brasil nas Copas.
Preguinho, João Coelho Neto, filho do escritor Coelho Neto, jogava no Fluminense.
Sim.
O preguinho, a gente não sabia pelos registros, a gente não sabia como foi feito esse gol. Nós descobrimos, aliás, o Gustavo, que fez o livro comigo, né? O Gustavo Carvalho, é que descobriu um livro em que o Preguinho dava um depoimento, o Preguinho morreu em
Cara, essa entrevista merecia
1979.
muito mais view.
E naquele depoimento, ele cita que o gol foi de cabeça. Quer dizer, depois de 200 livros que a gente procurou, ninguém falava isso, mas temos um depoimento do Preguinho dizendo o meu gol foi de cabeça. Então fizemos o registro.
Cara, que doideira, bicho.
É doideira mesmo. Não é
Cara,
fácil.
deve ser um...
Não, a maior doideira que eu acho é o fato dos caras não poder usar o brasão do time por conta de direito autoral. Puta que eu pariu, privatizaram o futebol mesmo, cara. E não é de hoje, porque o trabalho do Celso é antigo, ele foi meu professor de faculdade. Que coisa bizarra, que troço bizarro. É isso, gente, a gente vai trazer agora o evento da Unreal. Deixa eu só fazer uns acertos aqui rapidinho na live. Um segundo, a gente já vai pro evento da Unreal, que foi hoje mais cedo. Eu vou fazer o react também aqui. Deixa eu arrumar a capa, essas coisas. Vou pegar aqui. Deixa eu pegar aqui só um minutinho. Legal que eu não tô com nada logado. Acho que agora eu já consigo arrumar aqui, peraí. Não esquece de se inscrever no canal, hein, gente? Hein, gente? Vou pegar aqui só. Vou dar o título dessa live aqui. Mudamos o título da live. Real. Real. Vou dar a capinha da nossa live. Vou dar a capinha da nossa live. E vamos lá pro evento. Boa. Capa arrumada. Cortes no ar. Vamos lá para o evento da Unreal, gente. Vamos, enquanto vai carregando aqui. Evento Unreal. Quero ver se eu O State of Unreal. State of Unreal.
Hi everyone, welcome to Unreal Fest. Are you ready? Let's go. Thank you so
Unreal
much for
Fest.
joining us here in Chicago, and thanks to everyone watching on the live stream. Once again, we're joined by luminaries from AAA game studios, indie teams, Fortnite creators, and filmmakers who are all shaping the future of entertainment. And we've got innovators from robotics, architecture, automotive, and so many more industries who are taking the power of Unreal to new frontiers. There are over 100 sessions and hands-on labs to choose from. So if you don't have the Event app yet, take a quick snap of this QR code, download it, and build your plan for the next 2 days. Be sure to check out all the demos and games on the expo floor. Swing by the Learning Theater along with the Dev Lounge, where you can get some technical help from our team. So we're here to celebrate your success and give you a glimpse of where we're headed in the future. We have a lot of great stuff to show, but just a heads up, we're not doing a live tech demo on stage this year. The team's been really hard at work making an awesome new engine release and building the foundation of Unreal Engine 6, which you'll hear more about later. Before we get into what's new, we want to give a shout out to a few groundbreaking projects. Last year, just before Unreal Fest, Sandfall Interactive released Claire Obscure Expedition 33, which, give it up, which became the breakout hit of 2025. And now, a year later, the game has received over 500 awards, the most awarded game in history. Congratulations to the team for all of your achievements, and we can't wait to see what's next. Arc Raiders is another huge success story. From October to February, the extraction shooter sold more than 14 million copies. Embark built the game's massive open world, leveraging UE5 and Epic Online Services voice chat capabilities to give millions of players an awesome social experience at a peak scale of 960,000 concurrent users. K-pop Demon Hunters was the most watched movie in Netflix history, winning 2 Academy Awards, a landmark moment for the animation industry. Sony Pictures Animation and ImageWorks transformed their pipeline by moving to real-time previs and layout, using Unreal Engine to cut production time by an estimated 25%. That's months of work saved. And because the team used real-time ready assets in production, we were able to pull off a Fortnite collab in record time. This was a full ecosystem moment that kicked off with a Demon Rush limited time mode, and it continued across Blitz, Reload, and Zero Build, with cosmetics in the item shop. We did all of this and launched UEFN developer tools in 2 months. Unreal continues to gain momentum beyond entertainment. SAS is an enterprise leader in enterprise analytics, AI, and data management. They're developing incredibly complex Unreal Engine digital twin simulations across industrial manufacturing, worker safety, life sciences, and other industries. Now, these digital twins help businesses make operational decisions in simulation before a single machine moves, a single worker is put at risk, or a single dollar is spent on the wrong configuration. All of this, games, animation, and enterprise solutions built on Unreal Engine 5. Now, we revealed UE5 6 years ago. Since then, release by release, we've shipped many features required to deliver stunning, high-fidelity open worlds running at 60 frames per second. We've also been working to unlock real workflow improvements so you can create faster and more efficiently. Nanite minimized manual LOD pipelines. Lumen nearly eliminated light baking. MetaHuman reduced the time to make great-looking characters from months to days to even minutes. Sequencer and Control Rig made it possible to animate really complex character performances in Engine without leaving the editor. World Partition made streaming massive open worlds possible without leaning on critical engineering resources. It's hard to believe it's been 6 years since the launch of UE5, but it's inspiring to see what you've done. To share what's in our latest release, please welcome mon ami, Simon Tourangeau.
Thanks, Bill. Good morning. It's great to be back to share the latest on Unreal Engine. Over the last few releases, the feedback we've heard most from studios is make it fast, make it stable. So we've been focused on exactly that, performance. Take 5.7. We improved performance by up to 25% on the GPU and up to 35% on the CPU, giving you smoother frame rates. Today, we're releasing Unreal Engine 5.8, which is all about building on that momentum to give you more headroom, fewer hitches, and less friction between an idea and what you can actually ship. A big part of 5.8 is maturity. Systems that were experimental or beta in previous releases are now crossing the line into production readiness. The headliner is megalights. Thousands of dynamic shadow casting lights and area lights in a scene at a fixed cost. What used to be a performance lift becomes a creative tool. Artists can light with fewer compromises, and teams can spend less time budgeting every dynamic light. Around it, LiveLink Hub, Movie Render Graph, Chaos Cloud authoring through data flow, Audio Insights, and Iris are production ready too. We also made it simpler to scale to the different platforms. Lumen, our dynamic global illumination system, now has a lightweight mode called Lumen Light, designed to preserve much of the visual impact at a significantly lower GPU cost. That makes Lumen viable where it wasn't before, including on Switch 2. And that work is already helping drive further nanite
Desenvolvimento
optimization
focado no
efforts
Switch
for the
2,
platform.
que tá vendendo feito água.
Now, let's talk about something every developer in this room has felt. Yeah, the hitch, the frame spike, the long shader compile. The moment your game pauses and you wonder where all that time went. A huge part of that problem is shaders. So we've sharpened the compiler and improved deduplication to strip out redundant work. Less to compile, less to load, less getting in your way. In Fortnite, that work combined with content changes contributed to a 68% reduction in shader count. Faster cooks, faster loads, lighter memory. Jason and John's talk tomorrow goes deep on how they got there. But shaders are only half the story. The other half is pipeline state objects, or PSOs. A PSO is the bundle the GPU needs to draw an effect. Shaders, blend modes, render state, all of it. Miss one at runtime, and the driver has to assemble and compile it on the spot. That's your hitch. And those are the bugs that are notoriously hard to hunt. Luckily, we have just the guy to do it. So in 5.8, we've improved PSO pre-caching. Fallback rendering is far less visible while PSOs are still compiling. And the whole system is easier to tune, debug, and profile. These are not flashy changes, but if you've been chasing itches, you'll feel the difference the first time you boot. And we're not done. We're working with Microsoft and hardware partners on advanced shader delivery, a DirectX 12 initiative that allows us to ship pre-compiled shaders to players, moving more shader work out of the player's runtime experience. The rollout is ramping, and we'll let you know more about this soon. Now, here's a brand new experimental feature we're shipping in 5.8, mesh terrain. We wanted to move beyond the limits of height map-based landscapes where every point can only move in one direction, and the fixed grid means you can't adjust the resolution to add detail or optimize areas. Mesh terrain is a new way to author complex terrain without being locked to a height field. And it's more than just a mesh. It's partitioned for collaborative workflows, supports world partition streaming, and is designed to scale across platforms using the same source assets while tuning the runtime representation for each platform using Nanite when available. With mesh terrain, you have full 3D manipulation capabilities. overhangs, tunnels, floating islands, shapes you simply couldn't build before. And because it's mesh-based, you can also control tessellation at the triangle level. That means adding detail exactly where it matters, while saving memory and performance where it doesn't. As you'd expect, you can paint material layers, but also additional attributes, and it supports virtual texture with automatic UV generation. Mesh terrain uses non-destructive modifiers and procedural tooling, so iteration becomes dramatically easier. Everything can be layered, reordered, combined, and adjusted at any point in time, so you can literally move mountains. It also works natively with PCG and comes with an expanded modeling toolset. But best of all, in our ongoing Fortnite optimization efforts, Mesh terrain has a smaller memory footprint and runs faster than landscape. Higher quality, lighter costs, more creative and technical freedom. That's Mesh terrain. Another big focus of 5.8 is helping you go faster from idea to result. Performance capture has matured to scale from one operator at a desk to a full mocap stage with control over every recording device on set, including video. And we're taking that further. Earlier this year, Meshcapade joined Epic, bringing world-leading technology for markerless motion capture from video. We've already started integrating it into the ecosystem, and today we are releasing the MetaHuman Animator markerless motion capture plugin on Fab. You can drive a character's body, face, and hands from regular video. No suits, no markers, video in, animation out. For animators pursuing feature quality work, this is our most significant animation release yet. We've made high-end animation workflows more interactive, more intuitive, and more connected to the creative process. From sculpting directly on stylized rigs, to controls that live on the character itself, to a simplified timeline that keeps you focused on the performance. These are the same tools our animation team uses every day, and now they're available to everyone, and we're releasing the sample with 5.8. On the cinematic side, offline depth of field gets a major upgrade. We now render the blur the way a real camera makes it, by sampling the scene from multiple points across the lens. So you get physically accurate defocus, even on translucency and thin geometry. For productions working with ultra-high resolution media, the new tiled MIPMAP video format gives you compressed video that holds up at scale. It only decodes the tiles and MIP level your viewport actually needs, so you don't pay to process pixels no one is looking at. So that's the flyby. If any of this caught your ear, you can find deep dive sessions in the Unreal Fest app. And if 5.8 is about reducing friction across the engine, there's one more place we're starting to do that, how people interact with the editor itself. But to tell you more, here's Michael. Thank you.
Bem Apple a apresentação, hein? Bem Apple. Muito Apple. Michael Lentine.
Thanks, Simon. Now, at times, making games can be hard, expensive, and slow, where the gap between what you can imagine and what you can make is held back by technical overhead. I don't know about you, but spending hours in a node graph trying to untangle and understand what's going on just to change one thing is not my idea of creativity. There has to be a better way to do this. So that's what we've been working on, tools that enable you to build faster and iterate more. Now, Unreal has been built on a simple idea: your source, your pipeline, your workflow. Give developers complete control over the tools and get out of the way. That philosophy hasn't changed. We're just applying it to large language models. Now, in 5.8, we've implemented an MCP server that acts as a bridge between Unreal and any model that you want. For this presentation, we're going to be using Claude Code, but you can use Gemini, your own custom model, whatever you want. Enabling the Unreal MCP is as simple as turning on the plugin, doing a bit of config, and connecting to the model of your choice. And everything you're about to see today runs on that setup. Now, these are still early days, and models will still do some really unpredictable things. However, with this approach, we maintain the ability to go in and edit as you would any Unreal scene. OK, let's see this in action. On the left, we have Unreal Engine. On the right is a terminal running Claude Code. You can see every message going back and forth. Claude Code is talking to Unreal through the MCP server,
Inteligência artificial no talo, hein?
and taking actions directly inside the
Cloud
engine.
Code.
So let's start with something small, a modern living room. We start by giving the model some context, what we want to build, and whereabouts in the level. And to make sure everyone can follow along, we're showing a summarized version of each prompt as we go. But if you want the full details, you can still see that in the terminal window. We're going to speed things up from here for presentation purposes, but everything you're seeing is real work happening inside the engine. So we can ask for the basics, a sofa, a rug, and a coffee table. Then fill it in with chairs, a lamp, and a side table. Semantic search, which is part of the 5.8 release, pulls assets from your library that fit that description. And because this is Unreal, we can also manually add a chair, describe it as a reading nook, and the model will furnish the room accordingly. Every step here is a creative decision that you're making. Models are good at broad iterations. You're good at knowing exactly what you want. Those same principles work whether you're furnishing a room or whether you want to scale up and build an entire city. So let's take that same approach and build a city. You start by drawing the boundary. From there, you can decide where the districts go and what characteristics each one has. Highways cut through on your direction, and from those, the road network starts to fill in. Buildings come up. The model here is using semantic search to find the right assets from your library and place them in the level. Ask for a forest around the edge, and it can fill that in. At every step, you're making the calls. And what you end up with, it's not a rendered image. It's real geometry, real procedural content generation graphs that you can open, edit, and modify. And this works for a whole team, too. Other developers can work on their own sessions, building assets and dropping them straight into the city. The road network adjusts, the blocks update, and the city absorbs it. Different people, different sessions, and it all works together. So how does all of this actually work? With the MCP server as the bridge between Unreal and your model, it gives your model the ability to read your scene, understand your assets, and make changes directly in the engine. And because it's open, you're not locked into any particular model or workflow. Now, while large language models are great at language and reasoning, they don't naturally think spatially. Unreal does. To help connect the two, we're giving you over 80 foundational procedural content generation building blocks, a library of examples, and skills that encode specific Unreal workflows. Now, this is experimental, and it's going to keep getting better. This is where you come in. Tell us what's working. Tell us what's not. That's how we're going to make this better. Now that the city is built, we want to light it. Getting lighting right on Unreal is a skill that means touching dozens of parameters that all need to work together. Light balance, cloud materials, sky atmosphere, post-process. That's a lot to know. But by creating a dedicated lighting skill, you just describe what you want, and the model orchestrates that all for you. Ask for a purple dusk. And there it is. Under the hood, it's adjusting all those settings in concert. Then we can ask for overcast skies. And this is a good example of where the model gets things wrong. It misread the sky and tweaked the cloud material the wrong way. But you can see exactly what happened, correct it in the next prompt, and you're right back to where you want to be. Because models also have real-world knowledge, you can just say, Bogota at 9:30 in the morning. And it will go and figure out the sun position, direction, temperature, and atmosphere that actually matches that. And if you want to match something specific, you can take an image, so here we used one of Vancouver, and ask it to replicate that look. It uses screenshots to assess and iterate until it gets there. And everything is still editable. Grab a road and move it, the city adjusts around it. Ask it to make a building taller or more prominent in the scene, and it does that. But then you can go in and modify any individual asset, making it exactly the way that you want it. This isn't a generated image that you're stuck with. It's a real scene in Unreal, and you control every part of it. Now, let's look at one intersection. We wanted to add a hazard zone, flashing lamps, steam, and a sense of danger as the player gets close. That normally means days of back and forth across multiple disciplines. So here's what we did instead. The warning lamp already has a material, but let's say you want to add something to it. You ask the model to read the existing graph, build the new logic, and insert it right where it needs to go. You can then jump into the material instance editor and tweak the final values by hand. Then you take a Niagara template and extend it, adding a single parameter that drives multiple emitters at once, giving you control over the whole effect in one place. You build out the HUD through prompting and UMG, status display, danger meter, warning states. Then blueprint logic ties it all together. A proximity trigger connected to the material, the Niagara system, and the HUD. Walk in, and everything fires at once. All right, so let's run it. Lamps are off, it's quiet. She walks toward the site, the lamps come on, the steam starts rising. She steps inside, lamps are flashing, steam's pouring in, and the site is erupting. What we've shown here today would take months to build by hand. But with the MCP server and Unreal, our artists were able to make all of this in days. When you lower the technical friction, you can iterate more and make better games. That's what we've built. This is really just a starting point. Bring your own primitives, your own examples, your own skills built around your pipelines. The more your team puts in over time, the more useful it gets for everyone on the project. We're shipping the MCP server, the PCG primitive plugin, and the skills we've developed as part of 5.8 today. It's open, and it's yours to extend. Go download it, point your model at it, and see what you can do. If you want to go deeper, we've got 2 chances to catch our Tech Talk here at Fest. Come find us. Now I'm going to hand it over to Pat to talk about how some of what I've shown you impacts linear content creation in the engine.
Thanks, Michael. Hi, everyone. My name is Pat Tubach. I've got a background in film and television. For media and entertainment, the MCP plugin that Michael just showed you opens up a wide range of new connections to LLMs, but also to image and video models like Nano Banana, GPT Image, Grok Imagine, Luma, Seedance, and many more. Michael was telling you about tools in the present, and I'm going to cover tools for creating linear content that are releasing early next year that give you control over these models. The standard approach to using an image model is to start by crafting a text prompt. In this case, I wrote a novel describing a fictional scene in Epic Motors, a 1950s gas station. But in professional situations where you have to hit story points, match exact continuity, and deliver what your creative director wants, you would typically communicate visually through sketches and previews. Unreal is great for that. So, to get started in Unreal, I scouted the derelict corridor scene from Quixel that's available on Fab, which I quickly customized to look like the gas station layout I needed. I worked in detail lighting mode, since I was just using this for blocking to this stage. I dropped in some of the appropriate assets from that map: shelving, a propane tank, a cabinet, and also made proxy shapes for the assets that I didn't have: a long counter, more shelving, a cash register, and an ice chest. Then I backed up and framed my camera view and animated a boom down and a push in that I'd later use for my shot. But before I tackled the full video creation, I had to create a single style frame, the visual reference of my scene. To do that, I used the model to combine a depth pass plus the prompt novel I'd written before. The depth conditions the models to understand the layout and the framing. Here's how that works using our new tools in Unreal. I asked Claude Code, connected by our MCP plugin, to use Unreal's movie render graph to create a 4K image, plus all the rest. Asking for an Unreal render to create the image was a signal to Claude Code that I wanted to give my model my depth pass, but use the creative look described in my prompt. I then fired off that request. And while it was being generated, I inspected the graph that it made for the task. Image models are hungry for helpful data and conditioning, and so I prepared a process that pulls valuable visual data from the Unreal scene and passes it to the image model, in this case, Google's Nano Banana Pro. Now, let's take a look at this image more closely. You can see that it did a great job matching the visual detail I asked for, but most importantly, it didn't place things randomly. It matched the composition of my Unreal viewport exactly. From there, I could start to iterate. For example, I wanted another tire on the floor, but I didn't have that particular asset because it was an image model creation. Using the new image segmentation tools in the editor to mask the tire, I selected both the mask and the image, and with a predefined workflow, asked Claude Code to extract it, repair it, and mesh it using Trippo 3.1. And then I double-checked that graph, and I supervised the work. Now, of course, this is not a real-time process, so after several minutes, I got my textured tire mesh. I saved it to the content browser, where I then pulled in the tire and positioned it in 3D space. And finally, I asked Claude Code to add the tire to the image. Let's take a look at that result. So if we compare my UE passes with the tire in it, you can see that it put the new tire where I asked it to, and it made it look like a variation of the generated tire, not an exact duplicate. All right, now let's add something totally new to the scene by going back to the viewport for another round in 3D. I went browsing on Fab and found one of our junkyard car parts for Megascans. I picked the specific fender piece that I wanted that had a 1950s look modeled into it to leave less to the image model's imagination. I asked Claude Code to add it to my image and make it look like it had been newly repainted. And after another image processing step in Nano Banana, that was done. Now that I produced my style frame, I was ready to go back to our new Unreal tools to generate a video of our scene. And here's my shot camera move again. If you recall, this is the move that I created at the beginning. Over on the right, I ran a sequence render node that represents the depth over the entire range. I'm going to use the same depth restyling process with the video that I did on the still image. I supply the style frame I just generated to the video model as a first frame reference, and you can see that I added...
Gente, deixa eu fazer uma coisa aqui rapidão. A gente já volta aqui para terminar o vídeo. Não esquece de curtir, de compartilhar, de fazer os bagulho todo, tá, gente? Vou fazer uma coisa aqui só. Pronto, vamos voltar para cá.
Added a cat, just hoping for a bit of life. And then I set my video generation node to use Dance 2.0, set the resolution, added audio, and then I was off. Once that process had run for several minutes, I had a video that looked like this. So clearly, this is showing you that I can control the camera, but nobody controls a cat. All right, let's leave the garage and the cat and move on to an apartment. This is a different workflow that we've been building in parallel for more rapid concepting with diffusion and your viewports side by side. What you're seeing here in this video is the UE viewport on the left that was streaming to a local Flux Klein image model on the right. The local model result isn't temporally coherent. It was stamping a new image on every frame and only running a few frames a second, which is why it seems slower over there on the right. But let me show you how intuitive it is to use. I prompted for sunset lighting at first, and then decided to see what it would look like if there had just been a fire in this apartment. And then I tried something more extreme, like being underwater at the bottom of a murky pond. The real benefit you get here is being able to go back to the UE viewport, interact with the assets, and see them repositioned through this new diffusion lens. Not only that, but you can try more illustrated looks, like a charcoal drawing or even a watercolor painting. As models get more capable and hardware improves, it's not hard to project this workflow forward to a time when diffusion is real-time and temporally consistent. Okay, let's look at some other examples of Unreal Engine scenes restyled by artists in the engine using a variety of sources, some of which are premium environment packs from our friends at Kitbash 3D, and some of which are our own internal assets, including the city sample. Starting from quality source assets leaves less room for interpretation by the models. We think these new UE tools are a force multiplier that will give artists more opportunities for creative iteration on their work alongside the real-time animation, modeling, texturing, and virtual production tools that you've come to count on in Unreal Engine. So this is where we're headed. The MCP server that's enabling all this is experimental, and what you're seeing here for image and video creation will be available early next year. We're on this journey together, and we're aware that for these models to be truly useful, we need to focus on not just lowering technical complexity, and we're aware that for these models to be truly useful, we need to focus on not just lowering technical complexity, but also giving you full creative control over what you're making. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. That was awesome. All right, so now you've seen more, even great features, workflow improvements that are all going to help you make awesome games and content. So let's talk about distribution. 2025 was a year of growth for the Epic Game Store, and we're off to a great start in 2026. In our year in review, we reported that December monthly active users reached 78 million, an all-time record for the Epic Game Store. And players spent $1.16 billion in the store across third-party and first-party titles. That's up 6% year over year. If you just look at third-party titles, player spending hit $400 million. That's up 57% year over year. And we now have over 6,000 games in the catalog from over 3,000 partners. We offer multiple ways for you to help your business grow. In June of 2025, we announced that developers would keep 100% of the first
Tô com o Meteoro na
$1
TV
million
acompanhando, te acompanhando pelo
per
PC.
year,
Que legal, cara.
with an
Obrigado.
industry-leading 88/12 rev share kicking in after that million. We've got Epic
Fala
First
pras
Run,
meninas que o Pedro não
which
para de
gives
ficar ao
developers
vivo.
the opportunity to keep 100% of net revenue for the first 6 months before launching on other stores. And we also have Launch Everywhere with Epic, which gives UE developers a reduced engine royalty rate of 3.5%, down from 5%, when they sim ship their title on the Epic Game Store. Finally, we continue to push on Epic Rewards, granting 5% back to players on all third-party content purchases that are processed by Epic. Now, last year we had a 20% rewards boost through the back half of the year, and we're seeing players continue to spend at heightened levels using the rewards that they accumulated and earned during the promotional period. In fact, spending through the first 4 months of the year on third-party games is up over 40% year over year. So beyond these great incentive programs, we're really working to connect the Epic Game Store more closely with the Fortnite ecosystem. And that'll give developers access to an even
O
larger
problema é que é
player
tudo
base.
restrito, né, cara? Os caras compraram
our
a
collab with
Aquiles pra transformar
Hoyoverse as an example.
em filial do Fortnite.
When players purchased eligible items in Honkai Star Rail on the Epic Game Store, they were granted a Stellaron Hunter Blade outfit that could be used across the entire Fortnite ecosystem, in Battle Royale or in thousands of UEFN games. So some players discovered Honkai Star Rail for the first time in Fortnite. Then they went on to spend on the game in the Epic Game Store, and their spend unlocked a new outfit that they brought back into Fortnite. It's a virtuous circle for both developers and players. We've got over 30 million, sorry, not 30 million, that would be a lot, 30 similar collabs planned for 2026, with more coming in 2027. So we're delivering great incentives for both developers and for players, but we need to make the store experience better. And over the last several months, the team's been hard at work rebuilding the launcher. Our goal here is to dramatically improve performance with reduced cold start times and much faster browsing. We've also been re-architecting the back end of the store, which is going to allow us to ship new player-facing features faster and more frequently. We'll be improving search and discovery, adding a lot of long-awaited community features, and doubling down on delivering an overall better player experience. We are committed to growing the Epic Game Store, and we're not relenting in our mission to give developers access to a high-value global player base with the most favorable terms in the industry. You can learn more about our plans for the Epic Game Store in this session tomorrow.
Compraram
And now
pra
that we've
cortar,
covered a
né?
bit of what's happening in our ecosystem, let's hear from some of the teams putting it all to work. First, 20 years after Emergence Day, the Coalition is finally telling the story they've always wanted to tell. Darker, more alive, and running at 60 frames per second with hundreds of shadow casting lights. Then, Riot Games is doing something most studios would never attempt, rebuilding a live PC and mobile game with 300 million players on a new engine, all while keeping the live service running. And finally, the small team at Neon Giant set out to build the densest, most lived-in city they could have ever imagined, a city where every frame tells a story and every choice you make becomes a part of that story. 3 games, 3 very different worlds, 1 engine. Up first, please welcome Kate Rayner from the Coalition.
The Rayners of the Coalition.
Hi everyone, I'm Kate Rayner. It's great to be able to join you today. Gears of War will celebrate its 20th anniversary
Coalition é o
this
estúdio
year,
do Gears.
and Unreal Engine has been the
Teve brasileiro trabalhando aí.
foundation of every game since the series first debuted in 2006. For Gears of War E-Day, we made the decision to invest in Unreal Engine 5 and start with a blank hard drive and rebuild everything from scratch to achieve the believability of a world in chaos. Emergence Day is the darkest day in our universe, the day the monstrous locust horde emerged from the ground to lay waste to humanity. And to truly feel the emotional impact of that loss, we needed to return to a dark and gritty visual style. Light and shadow do more than just set a tone, and with Unreal Engine 5, we've pushed our signature Gears style to the next level. So, let's show you a taste of what we've built. Welcome to the Pay and Save Superstore in downtown Kelowna. In previous games, a space like this was limited to 3 shadow casters in view. With megalights, we now have hundreds of light sources, all casting shadows at 60 frames per second on Xbox Series X. This TV display wall utilizes animated area lights with light functions that are driven by the video itself fully on the GPU. They each cast eerie and unsettling dynamic shadows with soft penumbra across the scene. The Pay and Save is a great example of how we've created environments with geometry collection destructible assets like this tiled pillar. These dynamic objects cast and receive light correctly, so destruction stays visually grounded exactly the way you'd expect in the real world. Let's check out the freezer section. All these freezers have multiple area lights inside them to simulate that realistic lighting effect of the frozen food section of your local grocery store. During combat, bullets create a dynamic shatter point in the glass. When it shatters, all the pieces collide with the environment using hardware ray trace collisions with physically accurate, translucent reflections.
Os poucos profissionais da área de ensino BR escapam para o estrangeiro. Seria legal termos incentivos reais para a área de jogos no Brasil, sim, sem dúvida nenhuma.
There are hundreds of them, from the small lights on Marcus's armor to the large spotlights on the ceiling. There is no way we'd ever be able to achieve this effect or have this many ray-traced area lights on current generation hardware without megalights. A staple of the Gears franchise, E-holes are back in Gears of War E-Day. So let's open some up. Without all the monsters in the way, you can see all the volumetrics and smoke lit perfectly. One of the things we're super excited about that was unthinkable in the past is having shadows on every single one of our muzzle flashes. This is a really great improvement that adds to the dynamic combat of Gears with a more believable firing experience that puts you right in the middle of the action like never before. Our game isn't limited to just a single space. We can explore the entire city of Kelowna with tens of thousands of shadow-casting lights. Delivering E-Day with this level of visual fidelity has not been easy, but we can iterate so much faster with hardware ray trace lumen compared to the big lighters we used in the past. With megalights, our lighters are no longer constrained by the number of real-time shadowcasters, giving them the freedom to light our game with the same complexity as the real world. And we have 100 times the geometric detail in our assets due to Nanite's micropolygon rendering.
Micropolígonos, nanite.
All of these systems work together to create a highly scalable engine that allows us to consistently deliver a visual showcase across Xbox and PC. As developers, many of us know there is a difference between a compelling demo and delivering a fully realized vision at 60 frames per second.
Acelerada, gente. Daí a
The
pouco eu vou voltar ao
Coalition
normal.
is pushing Unreal Engine 5 and the hardware it runs on to their limits to reimagine the Gears world at an unprecedented level of detail. We can't wait for you to see for yourselves when E-Day launches on October 6th. Thank you.
We're all in! Hold tight while I get us the hell out of here!
We don't win!
We're not out of it yet. Incoming! You son of a bitch! I lost visual! Anyone see it?
Negative! I lost it!
Outubro. 6 de outubro.
Hi, I'm Gina, head of tech at Riot on Teamfight Tactics, or TFT as we like to call it. TFT is an auto battler that we originally built as a game mode on the same engine as League of Legends. We built it fast, about 18 weeks from idea to launch, and then
As
it grew
empresas
way beyond
são
what we
preocupadas com
expected.
sombras e luzes,
TFT
né?
has become a leading strategy game with more than 300 million players across the ecosystem, which is kind of wild to say out loud. We've just announced that TFT is moving to Unreal Engine with our next set, Enchanted Wilds. Rebuilding a live game on a new engine while it's still running is not something most games choose to do. It's years of work across engineering, art, design, and production, and that gets even harder when your game is still shipping new sets, events, everything to players on a regular cadence. But that's what we decided to do. I joined Riot to work on TFT, and about 6 weeks in, we made the call to move the game to Unreal. And pretty quickly, we realized this wasn't just about moving
Riot
engines.
Games.
It was about what became possible. Building on shared technology, reusing more of what we create, spending less time rebuilding foundations, and more time building TFT. One example is the gameplay ability system. It gives us a more structured and flexible way to build gameplay as the game grows. And for a game like TFT, where every set brings new mechanics, content, and ways to play, that kind of common foundation matters a lot. It gives us shared building blocks, abilities, attributes, and effects that can be reused across very different parts of the game. And that lets us move faster over time. With Unreal, we had to rethink how the game was built. Architecture, networking, gameplay, even the way the game data is structured had to change. And early versions of the game in Unreal just didn't feel right. Performance was rough. We had builds running at around 12 frames per second in an 8-player game, which I'm sure all of you can imagine was not exactly the target. So the first goal for us wasn't innovation. It was parity. We had to get TFT back. And that meant reworking a lot of systems inside Unreal. Some gave us a strong starting point, others required significant customization, and some we rebuilt from scratch. For example, networking. As we built more of the game and added more content, we started to hit limits. With a huge number of gameplay actors in a match, the default replication approach wasn't enough to meet our server and bandwidth performance targets. So, with Epic's help, we evolved our approach, adopting Iris networking with push-based replication and fast arrays to get the performance we needed. The hard part wasn't getting something working, it was making it work at scale. Gameplay was another big one. We leaned heavily into the gameplay ability system. It's powerful and helped us get something up and running quickly, which, as many of you know, matters a lot early on. But TFT has sets, modes, and gameplay content that don't always ship on the same timeline. And pretty quickly, we realized we needed a better way to organize all of it. So we ended up using the Game Features plugin to give that content clearer boundaries and a more scalable way to share systems. And that gave the teams more freedom to build. And then there's mobile. A huge part of TFT is that it runs on a wide range of devices, including low-end mobile hardware. That didn't change just because we moved engines. And while this has been one of the hardest parts of the migration, it's also one of the reasons we made the move. Mobile is a huge part of how people play TFT, including me, so we invested deeply in custom rendering, memory management, and scaling the game across devices, working closely with Epic to get TFT running where we needed it to. But we're still early in that journey. We're already sharing much more across PC and mobile than we could before, and there's still a lot more we can do for our mobile players. Content migration. I'm guessing a lot of you already know where this is going. TFT has thousands of assets across art, animation, VFX, and audio that had to be migrated. And every type of content broke differently when we brought it over. VFX alone was a massive amount of work. We weren't just converting assets, we were moving between fundamentally different systems. Getting thousands of assets into the engine was one challenge. Getting them back to the quality bar that players expect was another. And we really underestimated how much time this would take. So a huge part of the effort became building the tooling and pipelines to fix, convert, and validate all that content at scale. And that's where Unreal's extensibility really mattered. We could build the systems we needed to make this possible, because there was no world where we were rebuilding all of that by hand. And we kept running into the same pattern everywhere. Unreal gives you a lot, but getting from Unreal to TFT still took a massive amount of work. We're already seeing the impact of Unreal across TFT. More of the game is built on shared foundations. Mobile and PC share much more of the same UI and underlying systems, and we're able to build on technology and capabilities that exist across Riot. And that's the biggest thing Unreal gave us. Not a feature, leverage. But this move isn't for everyone. For TFT, this is what will let us move faster, take bigger swings, and keep delivering the experiences players expect. Because for us, this is about building TFT into a forever game that players can keep coming back to. And players will get their first opportunity to play TFT on Unreal in just a few weeks. And honestly, I hope players pick it up and say, yeah, this feels like TFT. Because if we've done our job well, they won't be thinking about the engine at all. They'll just be playing TFT. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great Unreal Fest.
Neon Giant.
I'm Thor Freak, creative director at Neon Giant, here to talk about Novo, the next game
Bem a
from our
apresentação
studio.
da Apple, hein?
In our first game, The Ascent, our small team pushed the out-of-the-box UE4 tech to its limit to make a highly detailed, lived-in cyberpunk world. For our new game, No Law, a high-fidelity, immersive first-person shooter set in the unregulated city of Port Desire, we knew that our best starting point would be building a game around the core feature set of Unreal 5, because a small team like ours needs to work with the engine, not against it. We realized early on that out-of-the-box wouldn't be enough. We had to push beyond the defaults and build our own workflow inside UE5 to make the world we wanted. We're proud of what we did with The Ascent, and No Law is the next step in that same approach. Our constraint was specific. We didn't want the largest world, but the densest, a city that feels lived in at every scale, where every corner carries history and every surface tells a story. Port Desire is shaped by human clutter, cramped market alleys, layered graffiti, worn stickers on electrical boxes, spaces that feel touched and retouched by the people that live there. Our goal was to tell a story with every frame, from a messy apartment where characters go about their lives to the skyline of the city. As a relatively small team, that ambition came with real challenges. We wanted extreme detail everywhere, but we also needed stability and performance without hand optimizing each location. For us, the answer wasn't a single system, but a shift in how we build the world. We prioritized density over scale, and we built a pipeline that let artists handcraft spaces without constantly stripping detail back and without relying on procedural generation. Nanite is what made that approach viable. It lets us keep a high level of detail across surfaces without treating every asset as a trade-off between fidelity and performance. Our custom implementation of FastGeo in combination with a world partition system enables a seamless experience that never breaks. It allows us to have details in every nook and cranny and tell a million small stories. In fact, we have more objects in any given frame than the entirety of The Ascent. With this workflow, we can preserve detail and density in every corner, from the smallest bolt on a freighter to the city as a whole, with no invisible walls and no loading. We built tools inside Unreal to help our artists handcraft the entire city, alley by alley, building by building, block by block.
Nem pré-renderizarem antes, né?
To show Port Desire's full range as an urban city
né?
overrun with vegetation, we needed dynamic lighting. From the coastal lush midday sun to the darkest, the most dangerous alleys where even the bright neon light does not reach. The challenge was maintaining a fully dynamic day, night and weather system without unpredictable frame times. Lumen gives the foundation for fully dynamic lighting, and mega lights that are artists focus on the believability of the space instead of tuning every single light source. Every believable space needs dozens or hundreds of individual light sources, from the smallest blinking electronic warning light on a camera to the large neon signs above a marketplace. Mega lights allow us to retain the visual fidelity bar we're aiming for while keeping performance considerations low. Once everything is dynamic, it starts to affect the gameplay in more direct ways. Players can shoot out a street lamp, flood a space with a flashlight, or they can leave an area in darkness and have the AI NPCs react to light and shadow, shying away from glare, searching through darkness, or escalating when something feels off.
Let's see who's got the bigger gun, motherfucker!
To make the city feel alive, we leaned on the mass framework to drive our crowds. NPC density and types shift based on time of day, region, and weather. In the slums, a storm clears the streets, but in the more sinful parts of Port Desire, even heavy rain won't slow things down. Mass lets us simulate thousands of characters at once, over 3,000 at any given time, which is also more than the entirety of the Ascent. So the city always feels active, no matter where you are. We're also using MetaHuman, paired with our own character randomization system. Together with MetaHuman animators, we can generate and bring to life thousands and thousands of variations of characters, so that the main characters and the extras in the background are all unique. We wanted a world that reacted systemically to the player, without us having to hand-place effects and structures. Filling a world of this density and scale with contextual effects while maintaining performance and interactivity was one of our key challenges. By combining PCG and Niagara data channels, environmental effects are procedurally populated where appropriate. Wherever artists place trash or leaves, particles will spawn dynamically based on wind, weather, and player actions. Shoot a bullet or throw a grenade, and particles will move out of the way. We combined chaos physics and our own GPU-driven solution to support tens of thousands of moving objects simultaneously. The result is a reactive environment, where smoke lingers, embers drift, and broken glass stays where it fell. Creating no law has been the process of finding where the engine ends and our custom tools begin. Achieving this level of density, lighting complexity, and systemic reactivity was previously impossible for a studio of our size. By leveraging UE5's latest tech to bypass traditional development bottlenecks, we have finally been able to build the uncompromised version of the world we wanted to create for years. We can't wait for you to experience it.
Aí tá aí uma boa aplicação. Não vou ficar defendendo muito essa galera da IA, não, mas ele falou no estúdio do nosso porte não teria capacidade de fazer tamanho detalhamento, né? E aí ele colocou ali a questão do vídeo.
I lead the Fortnite developer relations team here at Epic, and I'm here to talk with you about what's happening in the Fortnite ecosystem. Every one of the games on the screen behind me was built by an independent developer. Small teams, sometimes just 2 or 3 people, using UEFN, published into an ecosystem of millions of players. For those of you who have been with us in UEFN, some since day one, thank you.
Esses arbustos contratam com Cyberpunk.
Your feedback has really helped shape the tools, and your creativity has shifted how more than 75 million monthly active users experience Fortnite. Your games are a growing share of Fortnite playtime. In May, we saw them capture 47% of all player hours, up from just 38% a year ago. And with over $1 billion now paid out to developers since the launch of UEFN, these teams are building businesses here through engagement payouts and as of January
para os desenvolvedores de Fortnite.
It's introduced more ways to monetize. It's opened up new genres and helped developers with smaller, engaged communities thrive. Over 3,000 islands now earn more from in-island transactions than engagement payouts. And we're continuing to see a growing share of total payouts coming from in-island transactions. It's been a boost for genres outside of Battle Royale and Shooter, and these games now make up over 75% of all in-island transaction revenue. We know it takes trust to build on a platform that's still maturing, and this year, stability and developer effectiveness is our #1 priority. Back in March, we stated our goal to cut iteration times, and we've been making real progress, getting the time it takes to push changes down by an average of 40% or so. That's even higher for larger projects, and we've seen reductions of up to 70%. Plus, expanded live edit support makes iteration faster and more streamlined. Live edits are now applied directly in game mode, and the new edit list gives you a clear view of the changes as you work. The consolidated UI simplifies session controls and adds the ability to pause the game, letting you explore the edit the scene with a detached camera. And then work's not done here. We're continuing to drive iteration times down and make UEFN a better tool to build with, release after release. And alongside hardening the tools, we're unlocking more gameplay capabilities. Scene Graph, which is soon to be the foundation of UE6, is maturing quickly in UEFN and giving Fortnite developers far more control and customization than ever before. It underpins new systems like custom items, inventories, and as-of and initial set workflows, creating custom weapons and animation with Scene Graph. And there's much more on the way, including gameplay attributes, gameplay abilities, and Scene Graph UI. We're introducing more and more major engine systems as first scriptable components so that you can spend more time in UEFN authoring gameplay and less time configuring it. We're also opening up new types of gameplay with targeted feature sets. Creature-based gameplay tools just shipped with games launching to players this summer. And Fortnite Sidekicks allows developers to tap into the attachment players have already built with their own companions. Developers can now build pet battlers, cozy farming sims, and more. And we're expanding where those games come to life. Fortnite is back on Google Play and the App Store worldwide, and mobile playtime for UEFN games has more than doubled in the past year. We know that optimizing for mobile hasn't been easy. We're hoping that some of the recent feature releases, like native gesture support and touchscreen layout customizations and finer control of your HUD, can help you build more mobile-friendly games. These mobile features will exit experimental mode in August, enabling experiences and genres that feel more at home on mobile. Our recent Discover changes are already showing results. We've cracked down on spam and duplicate content, sorted islands into clear genres, and personalized Discover to help your games find audiences faster. And later this year, we're going to be doing a full redesign. Video everywhere, personalization across every row, and social signals, including like percentage right on the tile. And a big shift, Discover replaces the lobby as the first thing that players see when they open Fortnite. We'll be diving deeper into the Discover roadmap and the rest of the UEFN ecosystem over the next few days. Our IP partner program enables any Fortnite developer to build with officially licensed content from major IP, like LEGO, Star Wars, Squid Game, and more. Each partnership unlocks exclusive characters, environments, and templates that developers can use to create games they can't build anywhere else. One of the OG UEFN developers, Future Trash, has successfully brought their FOD IP to Fortnite and launched a hit game set in a galaxy far, far away. Their founder, Kevin, is here to share more about what they've been up to, so please give him a warm welcome.
Kevin
Thank you,
Marciano.
Hannah. Hi, everyone. I'm Kevin
Future
Marciano,
Trash.
co-founder and CEO of Future Trash, the game studio behind FOD. In 2022, my co-founders, Nate, Scott, Eric, and I, quit our jobs, and we wanted to build the next great party game. We were betting everything on an indie studio with one idea and a lot of passion. We learned fast how brutal that road is. Back-end infrastructure, discoverability, distribution, the walls were everywhere. By early 2023, we only had a few weeks of runway left. I flew to GDC with the Steam Deck in hand, trying to get anyone's attention to care about what we had built. That's when UEFN got announced, and we thought, why don't we bring our game into Fortnite? We weren't native to UGC, so it felt incredibly risky. After some experimentation with the tools and learning more about the blossoming creator economy, we could see the potential. We rolled up our sleeves and shipped our first game in under 3 weeks. We hit publish and got player feedback almost instantly. And that's when it settled in. This was going to be our path forward. And that bold pivot didn't just save our company, it changed our perspective on the future of the games industry. What UEFN gave us wasn't just a platform, it was direct access to our audience. No gatekeepers, no publisher approval. You just have an idea, you build it, and players play it. We've now reached a scale of players we genuinely never thought would be possible as a small studio. From a MOBA that didn't quite land with the Fortnite audience to our first breakout hit, Boom Tycoon, we had the opportunity to experiment with a wide range of genres and discover what felt right for our creative sensibilities on the platform. And as a studio obsessed with world building, character-driven experiences, and building original IP, UEFN became our creative sandbox and our distribution layer at the same time. Star Wars has always been a creative inspiration to everyone on our team since childhood. None of us ever dreamt that we'd be able to craft our own game using the iconic IP with essentially total creative control. The droids of Star Wars, they do the hardest work, they survive the worst odds, and they get the least amount of credit. And we thought, let's make a game about them. Droid Tycoon was our love letter to these unsung heroes of the Star Wars universe. It's hard to believe that this game could have existed anywhere else. And that's how we see the future of how legacy IP will embrace UGC native creators to foster an infinite extension of their content universe. That's where the most exciting stories are going to be told. And you all showed up to prove it. Since we launched the map, Droid Tycoon became the most played UEFN game in Fortnite by hours. It climbed to the second most played game across all Fortnite in its first weekend. And earlier this month, it set a new record for the highest number of concurrent players over a 2-hour period, which is the strongest performance ever achieved by an IP experience in Fortnite. Looking ahead, our ambitions are to continue pushing the boundaries of what's possible on the platform in terms of visual quality and storytelling. We will continue building our own original IP while also making immersive experiences for the franchises that inspire us most. Thank you.
Obrigado.
Thanks, Kevin, for sharing your story and creative process, and especially for bringing the Star Wars IP to life in Droid Tycoon in a way that has connected so deeply with fans. Droid Tycoon is a standout representative of some of the big highlights we had this year in Disney and Fortnite. Let's take a look.
Star Wars. Made for you.
To infinity and beyond! Behold, giant food from the sky!
This partnership is anchored in one conviction. Disney stories should reach fans where they already are, and that's increasingly in games. And it extends beyond Epic and Disney. Developers, you're in this too.
Gente, vou tirar minutinho da tela, mas vai continuar rolando, tá?
Using the IP
Só arrumar
that
uma
you
coisa
know and
aqui
love.
rapidinho.
Early in my game dev career, my dream was to make games in the Star Wars universe. I was fortunate enough to be able to do that, and it's been a great full circle moment for me, personally, to see developers experience the thrill of making their own Star Wars games for the first time. What's happened since we launched this IP program has exceeded everything we expected. Star Wars came to UEFN and developers ran with it. Galactic Siege, Escape Vader, Droid Tycoon, all built with tools available to everyone in this room. 8 million players in 72 hours overall. Galactic Siege had 6.5 million players, and Escape Vader had 3.4 million plays in just the first 6 days. And Droid Tycoon became the #2 most played island in Fortnite within a week. All of us at Disney want to congratulate and thank Beyond Creative and Jogo for their contributions on their exemplar island launches, along with Droid Tycoon. In The Mandalorian and Grogu Watch Party Island, fans were able to watch the first 10 minutes of the film before it ever hit theaters. This is a new model for what studio IP and the creative pipeline can look like, going beyond IP access and toward creative continuity and immersion in worlds that feel real. Star Wars, though, was just one chapter in a year where games meaningfully extended our storytelling. As Percy Jackson returned to Disney Plus for Season 2, Siege of Monsters, created by our friends at Gauntlet, offered a new way to experience that world, while our own Disneyland Game Rush translated the energy from Anaheim and Disneyland's 70th anniversary into playable form. And our Disney, Pixar, Lucasfilm, 20th Century, and Marvel outfit collabs continue to remain amongst the most popular in Fortnite. That goes beyond a traditional IP arrangement. It's iconic Disney stories in the hands of more creatives, reaching more fans than ever. And we can't forget our favorite animated family from Springfield, who had one crazy month-long season last year. This season had over 80 million unique players, with over 750 million hours played. The reach speaks for itself. We were so excited to see players come into Springfield, but we've also loved watching citizens of Springfield cross over into parts of UEFN. Let's take a look at some highlights from one of our favorite streamers.
Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. Bardas reacts to an idiot playing Fortnite. Here's how Homer gets us to school every day. The fat is strong with this one. Hey, look, it's Jurassic Pork. Here's Dad having a meeting with my teacher, Mrs. Krabappel. Here we go, the titanic battle between two old men with breathing problems. Okay, dinosaurs and stormtroopers are tough for Dad, but when he's on his home turf in a Springfield island, he'll probably just choke on his own donut cannon.
36 years in, The Simpsons still feel like everyone's family. But today, they're finding a new home. We are so excited to announce The Simpsons is joining the IP Partner Program later this year. Springfield will be yours. Characters, locations, radioactive waste, all UEFN ready. But hey, be kind to Flanders. But based on what we've seen, Springfield's in good hands. Thank you to all the amazing developers in this community. We look forward to seeing what you create next. Now back to Epic.
From the first time we went supersonic to right here, right now, it's fitting that at the largest celebration of our game, in front of the greatest fans in the world, we celebrate at history. To all of our friends here in Paris and those watching all around the world, this is the future, and this is...
Psionics. Au! Qual que é o nome, pô? Rocket League. Começo meio UFC, né? O Rocket League agora em Unreal. Tim Sweeney. E as demissões. Demitiram o cara que tava doente, hein?
To make great games and tools and to share them with you so you can bring your ideas to life. And I'm here to talk to you about what we're building now for the future. Today, things are kind of awkward. There's actually two different ways to build stuff in Unreal. There's building Unreal Engine 5 games for standalone distribution on stores with massive AAA features. And then there's the Unreal Editor for Fortnite feature set and tool set that enables you to build a game once and then deploy it to all platforms live into Fortnite with its 80 million monthly active users. Now, each of them has some really cool, unique features, but is lacking the features of the other one. And so our big initiative to bring them together is the core of the Unreal Engine 6 effort. It's UE5 plus UEFN equals UE6 plus some more cool stuff on the way. The vision is that if you build things once the Unreal Engine 6 way, then you can have a game that you can ship everywhere, including the console stores, the PC stores, the mobile stores, and also ship live into the Fortnite ecosystem or any other Unreal Engine 6-based game ecosystem built by any other developer. Now, in prior generations, we put graphics first in leading and announcing our technology. But with the Unreal Engine 6 generation, we're focusing first and foremost on the foundations of the engine to prepare for the next generation of game development and for gaming. And the most critical change here is the move to the verse programming language for gameplay development alongside the low-level C++ engine. And the reason for this is to enable massive scale code and content interoperability across games. Today we have a lot of content interoperability features. You go to the Fab content marketplace, you download a bunch of cool objects, you stick in your game, but then you
Primeira vez que você ouve falar no Rocket League, é famoso pra caramba esse jogo.
By having a unified set of APIs and a unified language that works everywhere, you'll be able to build smart assets that are completely portable between games and between projects and can be shared at any scale with the potential to have millions of developers collaborating together on a shared body of work that anybody can use. Another hallmark aim for the Unreal Engine 6 generation is to enable far larger game simulations. The original Battle Royale movie in 1999 that inspired the Battle Royale genre of games, fortunately, just happened to have 100 people dropping onto an island. And it's a nice coincidence because that's actually the maximum number of players our code base could support running on a single thread on a server. If they had 1,000 players, we wouldn't have been able to do it. The goal of Unreal Engine 6 is to introduce software and transactional memory technology, which Curtis Schmidt will talk more about later, in order to enable scaling of games to any amount of computers that can fit into a data center. Hundreds, thousands, potentially even millions in the future. And this is technology that's in the research lab, and the team is working very rapidly to make into a practical shipping system. Another major aim of Unreal Engine 6 is something I first talked about at the SIGGRAPH computer graphics show back in 2016. There I talked about a potential future of gaming as an open system like the web is open, in which any developer can run a server, build a game, host their own content, and the user can go anywhere they want, from place to place, bringing all their stuff with them.
Qual jogos você joga, amigo
tearing down the
imaginário?
walls and barriers that exist between games to have a completely interoperable ecosystem. And the Rocket League preview of Unreal Engine 6, if you look at the very last frame of it, there was a little URL bar on top. The URL was verse://rocketleague.com. And we're tantalizingly close now to fully realizing this idea of an open gaming ecosystem with the ability to travel from game to game and independent developer freedom to build everything they want everywhere they go. And our aim at Epic is to work with all developers in the industry to build a system together as peers. We want a system with no overlord. We've been spending some time fighting against overlords in the industry with some amount of success. And we don't want to be the next one. Rather, we want to be a partner to every company in the industry, including all game developers and also other makers of technology and services, in order to build the best stuff and connect it all up together. And so a huge part of this effort is going to be Epic adopting open standards like the Pixar USD file format and GLTF, and also working with standards bodies and releasing specifications to bring new standards into the industry where they're lacking and needed. I'll be talking more about that later, but right now I'd like to introduce Marcus Wasmer to talk about the architecture of Unreal Engine 6. Thanks.
Marcus Wasmer.
Okay, thanks, Tim. So let's just take a second to look at the recent history of Unreal Engine. So Unreal Engine 4 opened the engine to everyone by making the tools free to use and the source accessible on GitHub. And UE5 reinvented how worlds are built, helping you go bigger, add density and dynamic detail, and do it faster than ever before. UE6 has a different proposition. It's about evolving how we ship and operate our games. That said, UE6 will keep doing the things you want an Unreal Engine to do.
Unreal
Rendering will keep
Engine
getting better,
6.
cook times will come down, iteration loops are getting tighter, mobile is increasingly capable. However, we believe for UE6 that there are three things about game development that need to change at the same time. First, gameplay programming needs to get simpler for creating persistent, live, large-scale worlds. And Verse is the foundation for Epic's future programming model. It's a next-generation language purpose-built to power massive, persistent game worlds at scale, where global state just works, and transactionally correct concurrency is handled by the runtime. We built a modern high-level gameplay framework on top of Verse that gives you a true foundation to build games and experiences easily, and to share their interoperable components between games.
Não Rocket League.
You'll hear more about our goals and architecture for this programming model from our technical director on the project in a few minutes. But for now, let's talk about the second guiding principle of UE6. Content and code should be portable across games and even engines. Our goal is to give the games industry a whole new way to grow our ecosystems with cross-promotion, portable player value, and to really lean into all the positive sum dynamics that Metcalfe's law predicts for connecting experiences and social graphs together. And we're going to do this with a determined effort to move UE beyond just extensibility and into open specifications for interoperability. Where existing standards such as GLTF or USD are capable of fulfilling our needs, we'll make them first-class formats within the engine. And where a standard doesn't yet exist that serves the needs of game ecosystems, we'll open up Unreal's own systems as open specifications with Verse APIs, defined asset conditions, and documentation that any engine, tool, or studio can implement against. And Fortnite Cosmetics will be our first real proof point of portability. We're going to start by moving the base system to an open UE6 module that's usable by all games. And this means that you'll have the option to use a player's entitled Fortnite outfits in your own games, and you'll get the tools to build outfits for your own games that work inside Fortnite. And we're tackling this problem first because we want to prove things out with a system that's complex enough to be a meaningful existence proof of the idea, and one that inherently comes with a ton of player value by respecting their purchases across an interconnected ecosystem of games. We see this as the first step towards building a shared economy for smart assets, functional assets with logic and functionality that work across games to recognize players' time and spending in a better way. In the end, this isn't really a Fortnite story. It's just about proving that such a mature, complex system can work at scale, and that every game that works with these systems will immediately benefit from them. Happily, we're taking the first concrete steps to such an open ecosystem right now. MetaHuman has been adopted by some of the most successful games in the world and is rapidly becoming a standard for digital characters. And that's why today we're announcing the MetaHuman Dev Kit, opening up our rig logic and MetaHuman DNA toolsets under the MIT license so that you can deliver MetaHumans in any game, any engine, any platform. To learn more? Thank you. Yeah, so to learn more, please come to our talk right after this. All right, moving on, no tech presentation would obviously be complete without a conversation about AI. So to get one of the fun talking points out of the way, there's some speculation going around that game engines will be superseded by promptable world models. And we don't actually think that's what happened next. What does, we think, is much more interesting. That AI-assisted game creation will tighten iteration loops, reduce time-consuming manual setup of levels, character rigs, particle systems, getting bone rates,
IA diminuir o consumo é piada, né?
Translate professional, creative intent into performant and cross-platform games.
Diminui o tempo de desenvolvimento, né?
Unreal
Mas
Engine is
gasta
uniquely
energia.
placed to be the efficient, cross-platform, high-fidelity runtime that will remain the substrate on which much of the world's best games run. Thus, for UE6, we see LLMs, Gen AI models, and tools like Claude, Gemini, and so on as playing a central role in building content faster with the creative control that you need. And as you saw earlier, the future of these workflows is a fluent translation layer between natural language intent and your production pipeline. Our goal for UE6 is to greatly reduce the tedious work in authoring content to leave more time for creative exploration and increase the amount of iterations a team can make to polish their content. UE6 will ship with these workflows battle-tested against internal development and in UEFN. And while we've mostly been showing and talking about content creation, coding and engineering are important as well. Internally at Epic, we've been doing a lot of investigation to see what works and what doesn't. And we recently opened up pretty broad usage for code generation and AI analysis across our backend, engine, and game development engineering teams. We've had a lot of great success stories. We've had particular success with people writing custom tools for their own work, fast code indexing tools for helping LLMs deal with large code bases like UE, fast incident response analysis, automated root cause analysis for crashes, automated test generation, and of course the wins you'd expect on backend service development. But what's interesting is that most of those cases aren't even generating mainline Unreal Engine code yet, though that'll come. So you can expect Unreal Engine 6 to include all the key learnings for using AI for engineering along with content workflows. Okay, so we know you obviously have lots of questions about the transition from UE5 to UE6, so let's talk about that for a second. UE6 converges two threads of development we've been running in parallel. UE5 for high-end standalone game and content development, and Unreal Editor for Fortnite as the live environment where our new programming model is getting battle tested. UE6 will combine these two products into one. As UE5 and UEFN merge into one editor, you will be able to ship traditional games and projects exactly as you do today. You'll be able to ship directly in Fortnite, or ship your own ecosystem and optionally make it compatible with ours. You'll have an easy path from one to the other. Actors and blueprints will be in early versions of UE6. Eventually, these will be deprecated when the new framework is sufficiently mature, and you'll have conversion tools to move projects from one framework to the other. Also, a new UE6 mainstream will be on GitHub later today, publicly visible, just like the UE5 stream has always been. Any remaining UE5 changes will merge to UE6 to not get lost, but not vice versa. And in addition, Fortnite development will be attached to the UE6 stream, so you can see all of our ongoing work live and cherry pick any changes as needed. However, this stream is not meant to be any kind of alpha. It exists just to be transparent with where we're going. And while we're not currently planning another official UE5 release after 5.8, we do reserve the right to ship a 5.9 if needed. You never know. So when can you get your hands on UE6? We plan to release in early access at the end of 2027-ish. We know how game dev works around here.
Talvez chegue em 2027.
However, Epic will be shipping things on the tech stack ahead of the early access release, just to make sure we get it right. 6.0 will be released 12 to 18 months following the early access release, and we expect just about everyone should be able to move their projects to 6.0, as it will still have all of the mainline UE5 tech, except for Cascade, we're killing that one. That one's not going to make it. So get on the Niagara train. That said, we will be taking the opportunity to make some big architectural and other breaking changes that we wouldn't normally do in a point release, so you can expect a similar upgrade path from UE5 to 6 as we had for 4 to 5. We'll keep everyone up to date on our progress as development continues, and now Curtis is going to come up and give us a more detailed breakdown of the gameplay architecture. Thank you.
Unreal Engine 6. Curtis Schmidt.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Curtis. I work on the gameplay architecture in Unreal Engine, and today I'm excited to talk to you about the new gameplay framework for UE6, which begins with Verse. Now, Verse is a next-generation programming language purpose-built to power massive, persistent game worlds at scale. And we originally released it 3 years ago in UEFN, where we could grow it to become the foundation for UE6. And Verse draws ideas from functional, logic, and imperative languages, and it should feel immediately familiar to anyone who's worked in languages like C# or Python before. But it also has some unique features aimed at solving the complexity and scaling problems of modern game development, starting with this unique software transactional memory model, or STM. Now, all functions in verse run as part of atomic transactions, which can be rolled back and resimulated as needed. And this lets us do a lot of interesting things in our game's code. So for example, to check if an object can be successfully moved in the world, we can simply set its position, then do our spatial queries to see if it's hitting anything. If it is, we abandon the entire transaction, reverting the entire operation, and pretending the code never ran at all. Now, Verse's transactional memory model can also help us address another big problem in game development, building enormous worlds with larger player counts. And today, one of the big limiters to really building larger games comes down to server technology. Scaling a game to run on multiple game servers requires a fundamental rethinking of your entire game's architecture. Well, with UE6, we're working to build a full distributed software transactional memory system to address this. So here's the idea. We take your existing single-threaded style verse game code, and then we distribute it across multiple servers. When an object's needed in one server, the verse runtime rolls back the current transaction, migrates the object over to the server, and then reruns the transaction with the object now present. And this is all done in a way that retains the transactional consistency of the original program. And finally, with Verse, we wanted to make saving game data way simpler. So the Verse runtime can automatically synchronize and save any global state for the program, and then share it across all running instances of your game or an ecosystem. And to the programmer, what this means is that setting up something like save state for a player is as simple as setting a single global map of player to save state. No more having to set up databases or coordinate schemas between your game and other backend services. You can do all of this without ever leaving Verse. Now let's take a look at how Verse fits into the bigger UE6 gameplay architecture. So at the foundational level, we have the Verse runtime, along with all the UE systems that exist today.
Bem técnica essa parte agora.
Chaos physics, meta sounds. With Verse, we're also introducing the Verse scene graph framework. Now, this is a modern game component framework with full support for prefab-style workflows and runtime composition. The scene graph has been designed to utilize all the power of the Verse language, including modeling the entire prefab data model through Verse's type system. Above this, every core system in the engine is exposed as concrete Verse objects. Each material, mesh, Niagara system that you author becomes a type of Verse class with a statically validatable API. This lets us use the Verse compiler to validate all of our data in a unified manner across the entire engine. For example, if you change a parameter in a particle system, you'll immediately know where in code needs to be updated to match. And finally, we'll be introducing high-level frameworks for common game systems like characters, weapons, and vehicles. Now, building with these frameworks helps speed up development, but it also creates content that can be shared widely across games and ecosystems. So imagine grabbing a car from Fab, and instead of simply getting a skeletal mesh and some animations like you might today, you get a fully working Verse module for a car that functions across all of your games. With the UE6 gameplay framework, we're envisioning a world where enormous amounts of code and content is being built and shared between these projects, with Verse providing strong backwards compatibility guarantees to help the ecosystem grow sustainably. And of course, we'll need a place to store all this code and data, and here to talk about
então,
that
amigos,
is
por isso que eu
Matthias.
botei uma legendinha. Vai lá, Matthias. Jensen.
Thank you, Curtis. I'm Matthias Jansson. I work on developer tools.
Matthias Jansson.
And I'm here to talk about our version control system, Lore. As we continue to scale our platforms and services, we run into many challenges when it comes to data storage and version control. We need something that can handle large binary data sets, scale easily across the globe, and provide secure data isolation in a shared multi-tenant environment. We also need to make it easy to use for everyone, not just programmers. We looked at the available tools and came to the conclusion that none had everything we needed. Git, for example, it's excellent at what it was built for, distributed development of source code. But game development has huge amounts of binary data and content, and rarely needs everything on your local machine. Git doesn't really work well under such requirements. Other commercial and proprietary systems were also considered. But our foundational tools have to be open. Open specifications, open protocols, open formats. Anything less, and the people relying on them can't extend, audit, or trust them. So we decided to build Lore from scratch, and we designed the data model to meet our requirements from the ground up. We made scalability and performance core tenets from day one, and this is where most of Lore's technical innovation lives. It combines an efficient large asset handling with a free branching model, so teams can iterate quickly without sacrificing workflow flexibility or storage efficiency. And Lore will grow with you, from a zero-config, single-service setup for small teams, all the way to multi-region, multi-million user deployments like UFM, without requiring your team to fundamentally change how you work. At the heart of Lore is an efficient, content-addressed data store. Every file, every directory, every revision is identified by what it contains, not where it lives. Identical pieces of data are only stored once. Lore gives you direct access to that storage platform, so you can build your own applications and pipelines on top of it. Lore's version control uses this storage platform to let you work on multiple things in parallel, switch between them freely, and collaborate in safe, isolated spaces without worrying about how it scales. Lore's sparse, binary-first storage architecture fetches only the data you actually need for the revisions and branches you work with, supporting projects of any size. Large binary data is stored in smaller fragments, allowing partial deduplication and highly efficient parallelized data transfer of any file. That same data model is what lets Lore scale out across the infrastructure. As you grow, Lore lets you transparently add layers of additional servers from the local machine out through edge and regional caches and up to a durable global store. And because access is authenticated and authorized at every layer, that scale never comes at the cost of control. Every server enforces the same access policies. For a globally distributed team, that means that users in different regions can hit their nearest cache, and the global source of truth is never the bottleneck. Everything Lore does, data storage, version control, is exposed through a single complete API. And on top of that API, we built the tools you would expect. A command line interface, a desktop application, and in the near future, an integration in Unreal Editor. And these tools are all built on the same API and library. This API-first design makes Lore easy to extend and integrate into any development pipeline. Your tools and applications can easily use Lore through the API in the language you want to use. Though we're just scratching the surface here, I hope this gives you a sense of the power and potential of Lore. And it's already used in production environments. It powers the UEFN ecosystem, where it's been known until now as Unreal Revision Control, providing version control and data storage for everyone's content pipeline. We have already started transitioning to use Lore as the primary version control system for development within Epic, and we plan to be fully using Lore by the UE6 launch. We built Lore to address scalability and efficiency challenges we have at Epic, and as we talked with many of you, we heard similar challenges echoed across the industry. And that led to a bigger realization. If we're trying to foster a truly open ecosystem, one we all build together, then a system shaped behind closed doors would fall short. And that's why we're announcing Lore as open source today. All the source code...
Código aberto, sistema de nuvem da Epic.
Thank you.
Bem técnico,
all the source code, along with documentation of data formats and protocols, are now permissively licensed under an MIT license and free to use. This release shouldn't be viewed as a perfect or complete package, but as an invitation to you to extend it, challenge it, and help shape it into something even more powerful together. So, if you're interested in learning more, head to lore.org and come to my session later in the show for a deep dive discussion on Lore's architecture. And with that, I will hand it back to Tim.
Awesome. So that is the first two of our next generation permissively licensed
Nossa,
open
ele é
source
nerdalo,
releases, and the first of many to
nerdaço,
come
né?
as we go about building more and more standards for interoperability for the future of gaming. And now I'd like to go and talk about the game business, which is in a time of both crisis and also opportunity. On the upside, there's a new generation of gamers coming in with new tastes in games, and they're playing games at a higher rate than any previous generation before. And the biggest games, like Fortnite, are once again growing and thriving. But underneath this, there's a serious challenge to AAA developers, and that's that a huge number of the new releases of major games are failing now. We're seeing often hundreds of millions of dollars of dev costs followed by tens of millions of dollars of revenue, and the dev costs are continuing to grow. It feels to many like a tidal wave is sweeping over the AAA game business. I'd like to back up, everybody has their theory for why this is happening, but I'd like to back up and identify kind of the key generational changes and trends that are behind this. Because if we want to come up with an honest solution, we have to accurately identify the problem. And one of the key trends is that gaming is increasingly becoming socially driven. In the old days, it was you decide to play a game, you download it, you may play it by yourself, or maybe play multiplayer with whatever strangers show up. Nowadays, it's much more about you getting together with your friends and then deciding what to do together online to play a game or experience. And this social increasing angle of gaming is creating a massive advantage for big games and big ecosystems because a game with a lot of players is much more likely to contain a lot of your friends, and a long-established game with a huge player base has a much easier job of retaining players than a new game has of attracting new players. Thus, we've seen a lot of the major new multiplayer games not gain a sufficient community and momentum to survive, though in the past they might have. The other big change that's affecting gaming is that the economy is shifting from buying games to buying things in games. And whether you're a fan of this or not, the arithmetic of it is undeniable. And this is another thing that reinforces the success of very large existing ecosystems in games and makes it ever harder for new entrants to get in. And that is if you've been playing a game for a long time and it has a huge player base, then you can buy with confidence knowing that the things you purchase will still be useful to you days, weeks, or years later. Whereas when a new game comes out, it's a much more difficult decision to spend. You're not sure if you're going to play it next day, next week, next month, and are much less likely to spend. And the final trend that's affecting gaming is that the market for players' attention has become extraordinarily competitive, more so than I've ever seen before in my lifetime when we were competing with lame television and other things. Nowadays, there's all kinds of social media platforms, as well as things like prediction markets that trend almost into vice, all competing for people's times, all very effectively. And so to overcome these trends, the game industry, whether we like it or not, is reorganizing itself. And there are kind of two big predictions for the future as these problems reverberate throughout the industry. One view of the future is that Roblox grows and eats gaming. A lot of people are saying this online. But what you have there is a centralized platform with a single gatekeeper that commoditizes all content, takes more than 70% of revenue, and has 450 million users on board. And so that's a real challenge to game developers. But we believe in a very different future, and a much brighter one for the people in this room, and that is that a future of high-quality gaming rising to the challenge and linking up our content, linking up our communities, and linking up our economies to deliver fun and to serve gamers with great games in a way we've never done before. And to accomplish that, we're going to all need to change the way we build things. We're going to need to build better games, we're going to need to build them more efficiently, and we're going to need to design up front and build for connected games, where all of our player bases are connected socially and our economies are connected, so that players, instead of seeing these as isolated products, see them as part of a global ecosystem that all game developers participate in together. We want to work with all of you and with all of the game developers in the industry to achieve this together. The things we built with Unreal Engine 6 are our technological foundation for it. And we believe that this is a big challenge that we all have to rise to. We need to win the competition for players' time, not only against other games, but also against YouTube and TikTok and everything else that people are doing online. And this was very much on our minds when we set out about building Unreal Engine 6. And it's also what was on the minds of really close partners like Disney and Lego and other AAA game developers when we've been building increasingly close partnerships to them to build this together. It's very clear, Fortnite, 80 million monthly active users.
Quase
that's
todas as
quite
crianças
a lot,
jogam
but we
Roblox,
realize
como
that this
pode,
is
né?
not
Ah,
enough,
cara,
for
é um
Epic
novo
to do it
Minecraft,
alone.
né?
To build the ecosystem of the future, we're going to have to build it together. And I think the thesis for that is very optimistic, that between all of us and the world's best games, many of which use Unreal Engine, and many of whose developers use Unreal Engine, and many projects, we have billions of active users. And so we have the opportunity to form up into Team Open.
Sério, Gregório, Pedro, me desculpa, ontem eu apaguei na live, tava arrebentando no Onimusha. A galera veio me ver assistindo, jogando no Onimusha.
So that's what we're doing. Thank you very much for coming here to Unreal Fest. And remember, where else in the world can Fortnite creators get together with AAA game developers and filmmakers and architects and car designers and people at Lockheed Martin who are designing things they're not even allowed to talk about here, and actually speak the same language, the language of Unreal and content and code and development. So I hope you have a great time and have a great opportunity to meet up with lots of people. Thank you very much.
É isso aí. Apresentação aí da Epic. Gente, vou jogar um Marvelzinho. É isso aí. Esse foi o evento da Unreal hoje. E thanks for watching. Vamos jogar um joguinho, gente? Aí eu vou encerrar a live. Logo depois. Bora lá. Mas também não joguei Minecraft. Passou direto por mim e não fui atingido. Ah, também não joguei não. Mas muita gente jogou. O Monark jogou Minecraft. O Monark já foi o maior youtuber aí de Minecraft. Bora. Não, pô.
Cyclops, it's on sight. Iron Man.
All systems go.
Bora.
A mighty evil is waging war across the cosmos.
Só essa fasezinha aqui, já vou lá pra Folha TV que tem live hoje.
Perfect cover for a bank job.
Don't give me the old spider sense to figure out there's trouble downtown.
Watch out, these bugs have been sent by Annihilus himself.
Interchange.
Fire up those repulsors.
You're out of business. Twin burst. Fully charged. you're out of business.
Hey, come on! There's enough dough to go around for everyone!
Powered up. Interchange. Fully charged. Dual repulsor blast. I gotta get away from these freaks.
Why are they chasing Beetle? They want the name of his tailor? The troopers think he's one of them, betraying the hive mind. Oh no, Beetle's a crook. We have to help him.
Tem Ciclope nesse jogo? Eu comprei. É DLC. Paguei R$15. O jogo não, a Dofemon mandou pra gente pra testar.
Energy bolt. Ugh, street food. Fully charged. Critical hit. Oh, come on. You can have my share of the loot. No, don't! Please! My threatens all will fall for Annihilus. My threatens.
Never thought I'd miss that sparkling beetle repartee. He's under Annihilus's control. Fate wars to death.
Bring out the heavy artillery. Interchange. I need more juice. Okay, burst.
Ganhei.
Oh, this was tough. Not. I gotta change my costume.
Isso aí, gente. Isso aí, turminha. Jogamos aí um Marvelzinho. Tão legais as lives, né? O Lador tem uns formatos aqui diferentão. E vamos ver aí como é que são as coisas. Queridos, vou lá pra Folha TV. Se der tempo, eu volto mais tarde aqui pra gente ficar conversando um pouco, beleza? Vida longa e próspera, gente. Fiquem aí que tem corte pra vocês assistirem. Até mais. Tchau, tchau.